Oh,
I want to
love
be
it.
where the
Don't you love that when
cuties
you're just like,
are.
yeah, you love this, you love this.
Love me.
So we've got this this sort of dual thing happening. Yeah. So the left hand is going, whilst the right hand is going. So then together we get. How's everyone going with that so far?
I think a
Yeah.
music
Any
box.
questions?
So pretty.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I agree. And then
For
we've
the
got
next one.
the next two bars or the next the second bar.
the-
Sorry, Jess, you're just cutting out a little bit. Say that one more time.
Sorry, my
Or-
internet connection is unstable. Am I back?
So am
Am
I.
back?
Sounds like I'm
It's not the only one.
Um,
Yeah.
From the last thing that you've circled on the top stave, I think, is that what it's called?
This guy here.
Yes.
Actually,
For the next
just to correct you if you don't, it's a second stave, by the way,
It's a second stave because
Second
the
stave,
one on top.
because the one on top is the top. Yep, and it's combined by a spine or
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So the next note, you know how there's two notes under the
in the left hand.
same timing. What does that mean?
Oh, you're referring to this in the right hand. So
Yeah.
this is akin to saying there's actually two voices in the treble in the right hand. Okay, and when I use the term voices as if it's like two singers, two melodies playing at the same time. So actually, the first melody is going da 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 da, and the second voice is going da 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 da. Yeah, that's a good pitch. It's going, whilst the top voice is going da da da. Now on a piano, it doesn't really sound very different, but if this song was actually, say for example, there was a string sound like a violin on top, then actually that violin would actually have to hold those notes for those full values. Try to give you an example. Rather than da 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 da, it has to go.
Yeah.
Has to go. So the top melody that's the actual melody. And when we talk about music, sometimes we say, oh, where's the actual melody being played in the accompaniment, or where does the actual melody lie? Especially if you're singing some ensemble tracks, for example. Sometimes you won't be singing the melody, particularly if you're singing, leading the alto life. Or sometimes the melody can actually be spread across many different vocal parts, and be the job of a good musical director to outline that sometimes you have the melody and then sometimes you have the melody, but on the music it's kind of overlaid. Does that make a little bit more sense, Jess?
Yeah, sorry. For some reason I didn't realize that was the vocal line.
It's actually the piano line.
It's a piano line. Okay.
I'm just talking about it as if they are voices.
Yeah.
It is the piano stave. Yeah. I use the term voices because voices is a more neutral term. It doesn't actually have to be specific to a human voice. Voices and melodies can be superimposed and interchanged, and they can occur by any instrument. In this case, I think it is somewhat of a music box and a piano and a glockenspiel or something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, and when you're playing the piano, you're going to go da ba da da da, and hopefully when you go dee da, you're going to hold that C. You won't let go of it. Da da. That's the idea.
Yep.
And it's tricky. It's tricky to actually hold to continue to hold the melody at the top whilst you're playing the other notes. It's much more common to go and to break the notes. But actually, composers...
That way you would use sustain.
Use a bit of the sustain, but preferably try... I'd try not to. Maybe a little bit. The reason being, once we sustain, all those notes in between the melody start to get
also gonna
superposed onto each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where good finger independence is quite integral, so that your fifth finger can continue to hold that melody whilst your other fingers are playing more of the arpeggiated melody underneath.
Yeah, right.
And then the next one. Because you want as smooth and legato as possible. That's the kind of what we're aiming for. Yeah, is that making a bit more sense?
Yeah, it does.
Whilst the left hand is playing just an octave underneath. Just a little underlying voice that kind of supports the melody at the top. And what dynamic do we have here? Piano.
Where?
What does piano mean?
Piano. Soft.
Soft. Maybe soft dynamic. What's the time signature?
4/4.
Com.
Well,
Cut
2/4.
common.
2/2.
2/2. Correct. What does that actually mean?
oh, it's kind of.
Well, you can count it in 4, but conduct it in 2. Other way around. You can conduct it in 4, but you count it in 2.
Actually,
the
no,
amount
you had it correct.
Did I have it right?
Yeah, the first time.
So two minims on the bottom. No, 2. What is it? 2.
You're all correct, actually, which is fantastic. I'm just going to admit someone. Oh, I just muted myself. Oh, okay. So, hi, Tamara. Did Tamara? Is it? No. She's coming. How you doing? Welcome. We had a lot of tech mishaps in the beginning of the class, so this is technically not the intermediate, but also I'll sort of just gently move into something more difficult as we go. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
So we're just talking about cut common time. So for those playing at home, when we have a C just by itself, that's referring to common time. Common time is also known as 4/4. It's just a sort of it's a shorthand way of writing it. When we place a big slice down the middle, we refer to it as cut common, and to divide that by half, it's then referred to as 2/2. Now, when we're thinking about it, 4/4 is 4 crotchets per bar. Okay.
Yes.
4 quarter notes per bar. 2/2 is 2 minims per bar. These equal the same value. Okay, because 2 minims is actually just 4 crotchets anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing. So, what's the big idea? Why don't we just have 4/4, right? Even the tempo is giving it to you in minims. Generally, we display the tempo in crotchets. We display the tempo in how many crotchets per minute. In this case, it's actually telling us how many minims per minute. So I would then bring up my metronome, and then I'd move it to 84. This won't play for you guys, I don't think. No. So let's say it's tick, 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 tick. So that's actually, it's telling us that's telling us the minim value, and there are 2 minims per bar. So every time I click twice, 1 bar is going to pass. Da ba do da ba do da ba 2 dum ba 3 do 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 ba 4 do do do. Now, why don't we have the tempo as crotchets? This is as important delineation, because I could beat it in crotchets. Da ba do ba ba do dum ba 2 ba 3 do 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 do. Starts to almost get like a bit of a rock kind of thing going on.
Does it change later to?
It actually, I believe it stays in cut
4/4?
common.
Okay. Because that would
so
make
the main
sense in the
delineation, it would, in building motion and stuff. 4/4 generally has the strong beats on 2 and 4, and 2/2 generally has the strong beats on 1 and 3. Okay, so if I go generally, so time signature is always made up of strong and weak beats. So in 4/4, 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3, 4. Generally a bit more emphasis. In cut common, the emphasis, or in tutu, the emphasis is going to be in 1 or 3. Da, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Not only that, when you're conducting it, you're going to beat it in 2. And we haven't spoken too much about conducting and beating the bar, but rather than beating and splitting the bar into 4 beats, ba ba do ba ba do ba ba ba. I know that's delay. Da, 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 da. I'm going to beat it in 2 beats. Shabba dee 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 da da. And it's going to allow for a slightly more flowing, less manic phrasing of the music, because and just to move on to phrasing, the melody or the phrasing actually occurs over 2 bars, so we want a nice long elongated sense of the melody, da 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 da, rather than da 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 da. Super minuscule difference, but if you're conducting an orchestra and beating it in 2, or even a singer, they're going to find the phrasing over the 2 bars rather than over the first bar. And we look at this. Look, heart don't fail me now. So if you're internalizing the pulse as 4, heart don't do me now, you're sort of, from an acting perspective, you haven't really been able to connect with the heart of the song, which is actually in 2. So we start to sort of split the words and things get a bit choppy, and we don't get that lamenting kind of romance in the phrase. Whereas if I actually start to feel the two pulse, dum 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 me now, and I go, cool, okay, so it's actually a lot freer than chick 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 chick, because I want the broadness. I talk about broadening in this sort of horizontal way. I want the broadening of heart don't fail me now, courage don't desert me. I don't want the singer, and this is if I'm coaching, I don't want the singer to internalize the crotchet pulse, because the phrasing is going to sound very suffocated and not very free. And that's kind of the effect we're going for. But this is me interpreting the piece, okay, as opposed to talking from the composer's perspective. I'm actually interpreting it. I'm looking at what the composer has done and then trying to bring it to life. So I'm sort of tackling a couple things. You guys as storytellers and singers and sort of text realizers, I want you to sort of understand that there is a difference between feeling something in 4 and feeling it in 2, and it's a minuscule difference, and sometimes you won't be conscious that you're doing it. But if I'm working with a singer, I'll often say, how are you feeling the pulse in this piece, and then they sort of, they might start tapping 4, and I say, well, maybe actually we can start feeling it in 2, and then like how will that manifest in the body? How does that actually influence how you stand? How does it actually influence how you phrase? And funnily enough, it actually can make a huge difference, even though it's so small. So the beats and the bars will move in beats of 2. So if I'm actually conducting this through and you need to read along, it's going to go da 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 da, and I'm just going to conduct it just in 2. So then you can read along, and the bars are going to go a lot faster than you think. Do da 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 da, vocal, and then we'll read it. Any questions so far?
No.
Just sort of talking about feel and mood and
It's good. It makes a lot of sense though.
Yeah.
nice.
It makes, for me anyway, resonate with that a lot.
Yep.
So
Good.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good composition, and it's actually a great piece to study. And the notion of melody and phrasing, as singers, you guys are at the forefront of horizontal line. You're constantly manipulating vowel and breath to ride through space and time, whereas a piano doesn't do that. Piano just you whack the key and you can't really change it once it's hit. We can pretend, we can kind of allude to kind of changing. So, for example, a violin can change its timbre and it change its tone and phrasing, and you guys singers can do the same. So I really like to study the feel of a piece to understand how the phrasing actually works. So you guys don't sort of sit in more of a vertical plane. I call it vertical plane when we're just talking about the actual, when the notes actually hit. Da, da, da. Whereas the actual horizontal plane is how do we feel when we're moving from note to note. Anyway. For those playing at home, it's moderately minim equals 84. When you're coaching when you're, I know some of you guys will know this, but you bring this into an audition, you want to actually, you're even more prepared now to actually go, oh, well, the tempo is this. And you're just going to tap it on your chest and you're just going to beat it in 2 rather than dum, 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 dum. Especially when nerves set in, generally the tempos that you give will be a bit quicker. And if you beat it in 4, then you won't be as relaxed about it. So if you actually beat it in 2, you start to feel the relaxed kind of elongating nature of the piece. And it's going to be much nicer and much more clear for the accompanist. And for those playing at home, usually saying 84 to an accompanist is going to be pretty unhelpful. Unless they're super computerized. Then go nuts. It's better off you just sing some of the piece and tap on your chest, or try not to click. Try not to click. Scroll down, friend. Okay, here we go. Any questions so far? I'll just keep chatting away. Here we have E flat major. So we have a key change pretty much within the first verse and chorus. Which is lovely and very typical of Aaron's of Flaherty to key change to a minor third above. So we start in C major, and then we move to we pretty much the idea of a key change is that everything, or the melody or the accompaniment, is shifting up by X amount of semitones or X amount of tones or whatnot. In this case, it's the same melody, but it's just higher. Okay, to elicit a sense of grandiosity or some sort of intensity. When we're looking at key signature, who can remind me how to work out what this key signature is in the super quick way?
Second last flat.
Second last flat is gonna tell you what the key is. So when I read it from left to right, I don't know what that diagram is. I'm going to read the second last flat, and the second last flat is an E flat. So that's going to tell you what key you're in. E flat, bam. Does that make sense for everyone? It's a nice shorthand way.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got the same chords.
Thanks, Nick.
And people always say life is full of choices. G flat. What's gonna be involved in a G flat chord?
G flat.
Start with G flat. Yeah.
G flat, B flat, D flat.
Nice. Cool. What's my inversion? Which number?
Ooh, that is a first.
Second.
So 0,
Second.
the root. No.
Well,
second.
sorry. What I'm playing is root. Yes, correct. But what I need to go to is second. Okay, because it's a G flat over D flat.
Yes.
See the chord symbol?
That's what I'm talking. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right.
So then you need to make D flat the bass.
Yeah, correct.
Like 1.
So I'm going to take my D flat and just take it down the
flip
octave.
down.
I could do it the other way. But I just need to make sure the D flat is the lowest note.
Yeah.
Yeah. In this case, it is still the lowest note, but it's actually high on the piano. So it sounds like this. No, it doesn't. Yes, no, that's not quite it either. That's it. I'm just in the wrong octave at the moment. So the D flat's the lowest note in that accompaniment. Yep. It's all relative. Okay. E flat minor 7. Talk to me. How am I going to find that?
E flat.
E flat.
C. G.
E flat.
G.
Flatten it.
G flat.
No. Yes, it's minor.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
What's my next
And
note?
then B.
A.
B.
B? Sorry, it's cutting out.
B.
Are we saying B flat?
Flat.
I don't know if it's just cutting out after everyone's saying B or if everyone's saying B. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Let's assume we're all saying B flat.
And then wait.
I said taquitos. Are they saying boo earns? Okay, friends. So I've lost Beck.
What?
Yeah, a D flat.
D flat.
D flat. So
Then we
we've
have to
got,
make it minor, no?
it's already minor.
Ah,
Tis minor. Tis
Oh, yeah.
minor. So I had E flat. We first said G natural, and then we have to flatten that to a minor third, and then we've got the perfect fifth above, which is it's a perfect fifth above the root note, or it's a major third above the second note. Okay, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 semitones. Cool. There's my E flat minor chord, and then I got to find my minor 7. So I find my major 7 first because that's a bit easier for me, and then I'm gonna flatten it by semitone. Minor 7, E flat minor 7. Bam. Slightly complex chords here. Generally ones that you probably wouldn't gravitate to initially, but it's nice to learn them, just so you don't get too intimidated. So then I've got my G flat. So I first have my G flat over D flat, and then I've got my E flat minor 7. So it goes no one E flat mentioned, and then we're going to go to this guy.
F minus 7.
F minor. So let's find F major. Flat the third. Find major 7. Flatten the 7. Currently it's an F minor 7. Yep. What is the 11?
Oh, is that a bar number? Is that bar number 11?
No, it's actually referring to the scale degree.
11.
Oh, it is the 11th. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, good guess. No, music notes scores never have bar numbers. It's a pain in the neck. What is the 11?
Is it a E?
Not quite. The E is the
Where-
7th.
A?
Is it B? A B?
G?
B flat?
B flat.
Or C?
B flat, B flat. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
No, A. But the only reason it's B flat, right, is because it's a minor 7th. 11th. If it was a major,
The key is got B
11
flat,
is
isn't it?
11 regardless. 11 is an 11.
Oh,
It's saying F
cool.
minor 7, add the 11. The only reason the 11 would change is if it said sharp 11 or flat 11.
Say that
Cut
again.
out for a minute there.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me okay? I'm going to
Mhm.
reckon it's Dropbox. Dropbox is sucking the life out of me.
11 is always 11.
11, you can hear me okay? 11 is 11. Yeah? So B flat is the 11. Am I here? Am I in your
Yeah.
computer space?
Yeah.
Okay. So F minor 7. Great. My 11 is B flat. No arguments. That's just life.
What?
Any questions? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Go.
Is the 11th not the third?
The 11th is technically the 4th.
Fourth.
Does that-
Yeah, is what I
Does
mean.
it- Oh, do
I
you
just
see how?
counted wrong.
Yeah,
Right.
sure. Yeah. So it's saying 11 because, and I think I see what
Above.
you were getting at, Alexis. It's saying A because it wants it above, but also when we say that something is 11, we usually want the 7 to be in there as well. If I say 4, sometimes it means that the 7 doesn't need to be there. But if I say 11, there's a sort of an underlying implication that 7 needs to be there as well. Okay.
So,
yes,
how do you play that? Because my hands don't even fit
No,
that.
you wouldn't play all the notes. And this is where the priority of notes come in, because this is, in a theoretical concept, this is an F minor 11. Okay, I've got it on 2 hands at the moment. But there are priority of notes that, as I mentioned yesterday, very briefly, once you start getting rid of notes, you can still imply the same chord, okay? You can still get the idea across of an F minor 11. So the first note you're going to get rid of is a C. Okay, that is to say, you can get rid of the 5th of a chord and still get the right idea across. So this is with the 6. This is with the 5. The 5 is a C. I'm going to get rid of the 5. Gets the same kind of idea across. Okay, this is a little priority of notes. So now I'm like, okay, cool. So I can play 1, flat 3, flat 7, 11. But I would like my left hand to play F. I'm happy with that. Left hand's going to play F. And then my right hand's going to go flat 3, flat 7, 11. Okay, so that's my right hand. It's a bit of a stretch, okay?
That is a stretch.
With a bit of practice, anything over an octave is going to be a bit of a stretch, but with a bit of practice, it'll become comfortable eventually. Otherwise, you arpeggiate the chord, so you just roll it. That can be a bit easier, especially with a sustain pedal. Okay, so I've got, and that's actually how it's notated as well, which is lovely. And also we see that the melody of Fear is on a B flat. So you're actually singing the 11th note there, or the 4th, depends how you want to look at it. So already you know that you've got a melody that is actually a bit colorful, okay, because it's above a 7, and it's you don't have to be super conscious of that, but I think sometimes it's nice to know. Fear. That's where you're going to be. You're actually going to be banging the center of the chord, whilst the strings or the piano is playing a high B flat. You're going to sing an octave beneath that. So you actually want to be really nice and tuneful when you're harmonizing with the strings or the piano when you're hitting that octave. Because when you nail that octave, it can be quite sweet and really just aid the musicality of the piece. And of course, that B flat travels on through to the next chord. So F minor 7, G minor 7. I've touched on that a bit. So G major, flat in the 3rd, major 7, flat in the 7. There's my G minor 7. Everyone happy with that? C minor 7, C major, flat in the 3rd, find my major 7, flat in the 7, C minor 7. Now, I want to do some form of voice leading. So say I'm reading these chords, I'm going F minor. I'm going to play a G minor 7 in root position, because that's fine, it's pretty close to those notes. But the C minor 7 is too big of a jump. It's too big of a jump. So what I want to do is find similar notes in the G minor 7 to the C minor 7. If I find common notes, it means that I can just hold the notes or keep those fingers in that position. So here's the G minor 7. And then here's the C minor 7. What are the common notes?
B flat and G.
Cool. Yeah. B flat, G. So they're the common notes. So what are the notes I'm going to move to, and what notes will I move them to in my G minor chord?
You move the D to C.
Yep.
And the F to the G.
F to the E flat.
Yeah.
Okay, shot.
What?
So
F-
yeah. So I see where you're going. What I'm trying to do is play all the notes of the C minor without doubling any notes. To double a note is to play, 2 Gs an octave apart. So here's my G minor 7. Here's my C minor 7 in the right hand. Just to see the commonality. So G is okay. Okay, cool. I'm going to keep my finger there. I'm going to keep my finger on B flat. Cool. I'm going to move the D to the C, and then I'm going to move my F to an E flat. So then I've got my C minor 7 chord. Great. How's everyone going with that? Any
Also,
questions?
that's what's notated, right?
Not really.
Because
It's
can't you just
can't
you
read
just
the notes?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of like the can you just read the notes? My aim is to give you no, it's great. It's so true. I want to be able to deliver, I guess, a two-pronged approach, or at least being able to see things from two sides of the coin, especially like if you're vocal coaching or running through rep with someone and you kind of just don't want to be enamored by the notation. You just want to sort of quickly cycle through it. That being said, everyone has different interests. Some people in this chat, might actually want to start composing their own music, in which case, chords are really nice to know. Some people will just want to run through the melody and kind of roughly play the piano and not pay too much attention to that. So I just play the chord symbols. For those that are really interested, you can read the chord symbols just to just familiarize yourself with them because it's fun to learn chords, I don't know, in my opinion. But then you can actually look at the notation and actually start to compare, how close are the chord symbols to what's notated. Okay, as I said to you the other day, the chord symbols are only just an idea. They're only just an idea to get across exactly, to give you an implied idea of what the song's doing. When you start to actually read the accompaniment, notation-wise, the B flat is pedaling. Okay, we spoke about pedaling the other day. The B flat is actually in all the voices. Okay, that's when we would say pedaling. Okay, the B flat is a repeating idea and it's not moving. Okay. See that beautiful B flat pedal along with the melody is pedaling the B flat. So you got this nice glue that's occurring through the phrase, which is the B flat. It's not changing whilst things are moving in and around it. Okay. Now the B flat in F minor is the 11. The B flat in G minor 7 is the flattened third. The B flat in C minor 7 is the flattened 7. You don't need to know that, but those jazz heads out there would benefit from understanding that. Okay, friends, any questions so far? I'm just sort of waffling on at the moment, but you guys happy for me to keep picking it apart?
Yo.
Yeah.
Do you think we're still in beginner territory? Or?
Oh, you know me, I don't like to delineate things so clearly.
I have to dash off. Sorry to suddenly jump back in. I have been listening, but I have my stuff off, but I have to dash off.
Of
so
course.
I'm just going to quickly exit here.
Thanks for joining us. Sorry for the beginning craziness. See you later. We're kind of, I reckon we're, I don't know. What do you reckon, Jess? You tell me.
I mean, are you going to move on to intermediate talk now? Or
I've actually sort of been touching on some intermediate stuff already.
I feel that. Yeah,
exactly. So, but in a way that I'm trying to sort of include the foundational stuff at the same time. So some stuff you might go, I have no idea, that went over my head. And then some stuff you go, oh, okay, I kind of get that. So bear with. I'm going to try to do both at the same time because why the hell not?
Okay.
I always encourage people to say anyway, even if it makes no sense. Learning via osmosis. A flat chord. This is my A flat, major third. There's my perfect fifth. Okay. So the interval between 1 and 5 is a perfect fifth. The interval between 1 and major 3 is a major third. Yeah. Let's look at this rhythm. Okay. It's the most prevalent rhythm throughout the whole piece. The melody, that is. I need to divide my bar into 4 beats so I can clearly see exactly where the quavers lie. Not only that, I need to then visualize the quavers in between the bars, in between the beats, sorry. This is called subdividing. Mm-hmm. Not only that, I would like to also number them 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Also noting that 1 is strong and 3 is strong. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So then I'm going to kind of line up my rhythm here. So dotted crotchet, how many quavers does that last for? 3. So it's going to last for these amount of quavers. Then this is, I'm going to occupy this quaver space with that quaver that's on the word the. Okay, what is the curved line doing? Tying. And what does that imply?
That it's
Next crotchet.
Say that one more time, sorry.
The note.
Holding on to the next note, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that the same value? No.
We're moving on to a crotchet. It actually is the same value of what we just moved from.
Yeah. So why would they have
So this
put that?
There is an invisible line in the center of a bar for neatness' sake. When we're beating in 4 or we've got a song in 4 or 2/2, there's actually an invisible line where we don't want to. A lot of people do this, by the way. They'll notate a dotted crotchet and then a dotted crotchet. It's a good practice. It's actually really hard to read. We actually, as musicians, we want to be able to visualize that invisible line. It actually makes subdividing super easy. But a lot of people will do dotted crotchet. So you're right. It's the same value. It's 3 quavers, then 3 quavers. and then a crotchet, which is 2 quavers. So it goes 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Da da da. 1, 2, and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and.
No, you just
Sorry.
cut out, and it was just like
Very
Did I
robotic and
cut out,
long.
or is that just what I did? Like how the world can seem so. Don't do your impersonations today, Daniele. So we've got dika ga giga ga giga. So every sort of giga that I'm doing is a quaver. Dika ga giga. So 1 and 2 d da. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I'm accenting. I'm just giving it a slight pulse. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and how the world. How the world. How to the world. Yeah, 2. I'm just beating the 2. Yeah. Now, of course, this is actually much quicker than that. How the world. It's not how the world. But we can actually start to break it apart when we do it nice and slow. I've got a crotchet beat here, crotchet beat here, crotchet beat here, crotchet beat here. Cool. All right. Well, that bar's super simple. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4. It's tie the word world into the next beat of beat 1, and then just sing the next words on 2, 3, and 4. 1 can seem so. 1 can seem so. So now I've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 2, 3, 4. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4. How the world can seem so. Okay. Then I actually go, what are the notes? Can seem so. Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
This
Cool.
rhythm is prevalent in the entire piece. The syncopated rhythm. It's sort of what I was touching on. The word is it's syncopated and anticipated, so it comes slightly ahead of the beat. How the world rather than how the world. How the world can. So that syncopated beat creates a sense of anticipation and longing and tension in the phrase, as if something is. I want to say the word not quite right for lack of a better phrase, but heart, don't fail me now. Courage, don't desert me. Yeah? Dee da 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 dee da. And if we start to feel the piece in 2, we can actually start to land those phrases a little bit nicer. So we realize that the emphasized words are on beat 1 and 3. So this is going to be emphasized. This is going to be emphasized. It's interesting. It's like, you wouldn't emphasize it a whole lot. In fact, just due to the music, just due to the way it's written, the way you sing it will actually have a natural emphasis. People always say, okay? Always say, dee da 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 da. It's your choice as a guest, as an actor, if you sort of want to lean into those words, people and say, life, choices. Okay, so we actually look a bit deeper into this. Life is on beat 1. Nothing is on beat 3 here. Okay, it's actually anticipated, so you don't really have to work too hard to. It's just the in-between words. It's just joining us to the overall sentiment. But then choices is on beat 3. And it carries on to beat 4, which is fine. Life is full. But because we've got this anticipated word, it's not emphasized on beat 1 and 3, but because it's anticipated and long, so it anticipates beat 1. So firstly, it anticipates beat 1, and it's tied on to last for 2 beats. So it actually gains a natural emphasis, the word full. Life is full of choices. So then we get this natural emphasis on the word full, as well as the word always. Always say life is full of choices because it's tied to another note. So then we get these sort of 2 anchors in these phrasing. No one ever mentions. Okay, so then we get this emphasis on ever, and then we get a strong beat on the word mentions. Anyway, any questions on that?
Cool.
It's
Is that
dry, isn't it?
Sorry, I interrupted someone, I think.
No,
Did I
I think
interrupt
someone was
someone?
saying
No.
cool.
Is that why? I can't remember how I was going to phrase my question, but
right.
the difference between cut common and common time, having it in cut common time lends itself to that phrasing more so than. Is that why?
Yes.
That's a choice? Yeah.
Yep, it's a choice. The thing is it a choice? Like, what came first, the writing or the time
you'd
signature?
have to ask them. Yeah. Okay,
and generally speaking, the writing would come first, and then the signifying of how do we write this down. So, as in the composition would come first. I've got this. She has to be longing and da 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 da. And she hears this melody. That's the music box. And it's like, soaring through the sky, yada, yada, yada. And then we need these broad phrases. Heart, don't fail me now. She needs to feel like she's moving through slow motion as she's like contemplating all of these things. Courage, don't desert me. Don't turn back now that we're here. And so we've got these long, long phrases. She's oozing through time. Then based on the fact that there is a natural emphasis on 1 and 3, someone, for example, the copyist or the engraver or the transcriber will have to go, okay, well, how do I write this down? All right, well, we could write it in 4/4, but that probably won't get the right idea across, Yeah, so there's a bit of a process. I'm just theorizing, by the way. Obviously, I do not know.
Unless you can ask them.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? What key signature am I in or going to?
Oh.
D sharp.
Firstly.
Nope.
No,
it's not.
No, take your time though.
A sharp?
Say again.
Wait. F
Sharp?
Oh, no, it's F sharp, sorry.
F sharp. This is a tricky one.
Oh, it's different for.
It's different for sharps.
Oh,
you take the last sharp and go up a semitone, right? Is that the trick?
Yeah. So it's just different from flats. So we take the last sharp, which in this case it's a tricky one because it's an E sharp, okay, which is just an F. This is the discussion we're having the other day about G flat or F sharp. It's a tricky conversation, E sharp, okay, it's an F, and then I raise it by a semitone. Cool, I'm in F sharp major.
Is that for all?
All sharps.
Is that for all sharps?
All sharps. Yep. Take the last one, raise it by a semitone. Bada bing, bada boom.
The second
last flat for the flat
trick.
keys, except F major, because F major has a B flat, and that's just on its own.
Why has it got all those naturals ahead of it?
Yeah, cool. So, most of the time when you see a key signature, when you have a transposition, the key signature actually naturalizes or neutralizes the previous key signature, then it shows you the next one. So it's actually saying that you were just in E flat major, but now I need you to actually sort of cancel that out, naturalize the B and the E and the A, and then apply this rule. It's super common practice to have to have that. Some keys won't. Some pieces won't. Some pieces will just have the key signature. But I think it's nice when you actually show the naturalizing of the notes and then the new key signature. So does that make sense? Yeah. Confusing on first glance, but actually very helpful. And to be honest, as an accompanist, it'll just sort of sit in my subconscious when I see something like that. It's not something I actively look at. It's in the back of my mind. Cool. So now we're in F sharp major, which is a pain in the neck to play, because you're looking at,
you're only in F sharp major for like 8 bars.
Yes. It's disastrous. Now, if this was in G flat, it actually could be potentially quite nicer. And I'm not sure. Sometimes it's hard to work out why they didn't choose G flat. Sometimes I feel it's due to tuning of instruments. The key or the piece will sound a bit differently when it's in a sharp key versus a flat key. So it actually could sound a bit more open and more triumphant and more longing. But as a pianist, it will sound the same. Because the piano, you just play an F sharp, it's an F sharp or a G flat, you know. But if it's a string player, we'll play an F sharp versus a G flat, and the harmonics and yada, yada, yada will be a bit different, how they harmonize together. It's real advanced stuff that I'm still trying to work out. That being said, when you're reading it, you have to really be conscious of these E sharps, because if you play an E natural, it will sound bad. It's just bad. But it happens, you know.
Like,
you're there,
Anastasia
playing-
went a bit hard on the vocal.
yeah.
That's what I sound like trying to sing.
Da, da, da. Yeah. Da. And look, you know, you're auditioning, you're playing auditions, and you're tired, and you see a key signature like that come up, and you're like, shit, am I in F sharp? Am I in C sharp? Oh man, what am I doing? And then you end up playing that E natural, and you only do it for a second, and then you correct yourself because it's bad.
And then you curse the person who
everyone
brought it
yells
in.
at you.
You're like, why did you choose that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And why haven't you stopped singing? You've only got 90 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Oh, you're all friendly, aren't you? Sympathize with the accompanist. And then we've got a beautiful 251 modulation. Check that out. I'm just going to keep circling it because it's just having a good time.
Oh, yeah.
So we're in F sharp for a second. Notice that we've just come from E flat. On a journey to the to F sharp, up a minor third. Da 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 da. Gonna modulate by using the 2 of C, da da 5 of C, and back home we are. And when we modulate, Jess, how you doing? Chicarelli. I just saw your eyes go. What?
Yeah. Why is it in a key signature when they want to naturalize all the fucking notes?
Just because we're crazy.
Oh, God. Yeah, continue, sorry.
Yeah. So the swearing begins. That's what intermediate's all about. No, I love it. Express yourself. Express yourself. And it's a beautiful key change. We use these 2 chords to go to C major. So we use 2 chords that belong to C major to bridge. It's actually quite a sudden key change to go from F sharp and then to go to G minor, so D minor. You know, we're kind of used to that sound by now, but it's actually, those 2 chords are not related to F sharp at all. And then we modulate down 2 minor thirds. So we started in C major. Oh, don't fail me now. Da, 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 da. Then we go to E flat. People over there. Da, 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 past F sharp, and then modulate, and then back to the point of the story. Somewhere down this road, and she's got a bit more resilience, you know. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just the D -7 and the G7 sus. That just pops out, not in the chord in F sharp at all.
Correct. It's what we call a. I had a word for
surprise?
it. I forgot. It's what we call a surprise. Because you can transitions, right? It transitions from a compositional perspective. Transitions can either be smooth or sudden. Exactly, a surprise. In this case, they've gone for the sudden approach. They haven't looked to create any sort of soft transition. Actually, it would even be more hard, the transition, if it went straight into the vocal without those 2 bars. You know, da, 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 somewhere down this road, if that 2 bars didn't exist. So in a way, they've actually been somewhat nice. You can also, now all of the chords are different. You look at this melody, da, 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 da. They're just going up by semitone. Da, da, da. You know, so even though we're modulating down, the melody in that F sharp, bear with me for a second, is doing, the melody is the top note, okay? Da, 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 da. And then I'm going to modulate it up a semitone. Da, 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 da. So the melody is just going up a semitone, but the chords belong to the next key, which is down a tritone or down 2 minor thirds. So it's really, I don't know, it's quite interesting. Yeah?
Can I go back to the
With me, friends?
G7 sus chord for a
Of course you
second?
Yeah.
Just to read that. So
That's
that's a minor triad, G.
Is a major.
G. Oh, it's a major.
Yeah.
I was
It's only going to be a
forget.
minor if it's
If
it'll
there's an
only
M.
be minor if there's a little M or an MIN. It's a G7, so it's a dominant chord. So it's a G major chord with a minor 7 on top of it. First and foremost, G major, minor 7,
There.
and then it's a sus.
And then
okay?
is the sus, what's that again? Is that the sus of the
it's,
fourth?
It's going to move to the 4, okay? Sometimes, oh yeah, go Alexis.
Sorry, I was just why is the 7th a minor if it's a major chord?
Yeah, sure.
Is that a stupid question?
No, not at all. It's been something that we've been unraveling over the past week. It's one of those things that just has to be taken as is, sort of. Okay, so G7 is a major chord with a minor 7 interval on top. I'm actually not saying that the chord is minor. I'm saying that the interval between the 1 and the 7 is a minor 7. So,
Cool.
take yours.
just cause. Enjoy.
Cool.
Does anyone else want to elaborate? Help maybe share your perspective
It just
on
did.
how you internalize that information.
So So
Internalize that information.
when it ever says a 7, it's going to be a minor 7.
A minor 7 interval, correct. Now, interval is 2 notes, so it's the distance between one note and the second note. So if it's a G minor 7 or a G7, they both need a minor 7 interval. If it's a G minor 7, the chord needs to be minor. If it's a G7, the chord needs to be major.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But with a minor 7.
With
But
the minor
what's
7
the difference
interval.
between a minor interval and a major interval?
Yep.
So
So
that's
a minor
one.
interval is a flat 7, and a major interval, major 7 interval, that's a major 7. This is a minor 7.
And whenever it says that there's a 7 within a chord, it's always a minor interval.
Yes, apart from this one thing. Okay, though it's an exception to the rule.
Okay.
I think that's how the phrase goes. If it says G major 7, G major, then you add the major 7. But every other time you see a 7,
Minor 7.
apart from diminished 7s, but let's just put that to the side for a second.
Yeah, just
Diminished 7s. Silence.
We'll get
It's Friday. It's Good
So,
Friday.
hey, we're in advance now. It's 1:15 right now. So G major 7. Yeah. G minor 7. G7. So it's always going to be a minor 7 interval unless it says a major 7.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Your logic's, you got it.
That makes sense. Sweet.
Yeah.
So
then we
major
changed this.
7 is just the exception to the rule when it comes to 7th.
Yep.
But just
What
to
were you saying,
clarify
Jess?
with the G, oh, sorry.
Oh no, Linta. Sorry. I don't know. Okay.
Just with that sus is so you bring the 3rd to the 4th.
Third is going to
But
move
does
to
that-
the 4th. So I'll elaborate on that. Generally, when we see a suspended chord, it will either say sus2 or sus4, as I mentioned. But if you don't see a 2 or a 4, it's implying that it's a 4. Okay? It's just for whatever reason.
That you move the 3 to the 4.
Yeah, so I've got my G7, and I'm going to move the 3 to the 4. Bam. Bam, bam, bam. Okay. Now, in this case, the right hand is actually going G in the top hand, 5 underneath that, 4, and actually the 9, just to magic up things. And the left hand is playing the 1 and the flat 7, which is very common for that voicing to happen. And that's the chord. It's actually a G9 sus. They're just making it a bit simple for you by saying G7 sus. That's the chord.
Yeah, the sus means
Move the 3 to the 4. Move the scale degree 3 to scale degree 4. So generally, if you saw G7 with no sus, you'd play the 3, But when you see sus, you move the 3 to the 4. And it creates an almost suspended, elevated kind of feeling. How are we doing with that?
Yeah, cool. That's good. That makes sense to me.
Nice, great.
Yeah.
Good on you, Jess. You're rocking the intermediate. We'll wrap up in a few minutes, so end of the week as well, so feel free to chime in with any questions or, I don't know, ponderings.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going back like many, 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 many years to studying theory at uni, so just stick with me.
Yeah, of course.
You know how in composition there are rules, like rules about tritones and rules about whatever, yeah. So on that same thought, when you're talking about when you're playing the chord but you take out the fifth, are there rules about like in which order you take out the notes, or can you only take out the fifth? Does that make sense? Like, is there a hierarchy? Order? Hierarchy is the word.
Yeah. There is a hierarchy, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you mean like, so if, say, for example, you're like, get rid of one note. Okay, so the first note you're going to get rid of is the perfect fifth. Is the fifth.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the top of the list. And in fact, even sort of higher than that is the 1. But if you got rid of the 1...
You don't have a bass note.
Yeah, you don't have a bass note. And then the things get a bit ambiguous. But, of course, if you did have a bass note, then in your right hand,
if you were playing
I'm
the
going to
same,
take out my
like
1.
The bass. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so say I've got this G7 sus. My first note that I can emit whilst the left hand's playing a G is 1. Cool. The next
because
note
you've already got the G, you've got the tonic somewhere in the chord.
Yeah, somewhere. The next note I'm going to get rid of is the 5, even though the 5's not being played anywhere, okay? It's still going to get the message across. I'm still getting the sound or the feeling of G7 sus, even though I'm not playing every single note. So general rule of thumb, if you play around with getting rid of the 1 and the 5, but keeping in, you have to keep in the 3. You really need to keep in the 3. If you get rid of the 3, then you don't know if something's major or minor, and then things get super ambiguous. In a 7 chord, you really want to keep in the 7. So you'll be super professional if you can play 3 and 7 in your right hand, and then 1 and, I don't know, something else in your left hand.
Like,
it just makes it sound really good.
1 or 5 and something.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. But 3 and 7, they're in jazz language, there's what we refer to as the bones. They're the bones of the chord, and if you incorporate them and keep them, then we're still going to get the basic kind of sentiment of the chord. So
bless you.
That's kind of a nice way of looking at it. Now, in this setting, especially from an orchestration perspective, I would think that the brass is doing like some sort of G and 7, which is in the left hand. That's quite common to see a 1 and a 7. Okay, they're far apart, so they don't sound too muddy in the left hand. And from an orchestration perspective, it's probably going to be like contrabass or double bass doing, a nice low G, and then maybe cello as well, doing an octave higher, and then potentially trombones doing that F. I'm just assuming here. And then you've got everything else above, which I would think that the strings are doing this chord or some variation of this chord, maybe A, D, G, and then the woodwinds, maybe flute and clarinet, are doing maybe flutes up here and clarinets doing these clash here, because clarinets can clash and still sound pretty good. So here we're looking at voicing in the piano, but we're also looking at voicing in orchestration. And so when we're playing the left hand, we don't have to play just an octave. Sometimes that's quite tedious. We can actually play the 1 and the 7 if the 7's in the chord. And then we've got this chord here, which is really lovely. Anyway, that's just a little insight into how I look at music. It's all colours, It's all sort of colours and shapes. Yeah. Anything else, friends? Answer your question, Jess?
Yes, thank you.
So it's all to do with harmonics, okay? So the final thing I'll say, which I'm not going to get into the details of this because everyone's brains will explode, including my own. Within one note includes many notes. So within this C includes an extra C 2 octaves above, a fifth, a fourth, I think, and then third. Anyway, the thing is, though, when you actually hear this note, the loudest note you're going to hear is that note. But actually, it's all of these notes stacked on top of each other. It's just that the higher the notes go, the loudness gets softer. So to your sort of human perception, you can't actually hear the individual what we call frequencies or harmonics, but they're still there in the one essence of sound. Okay. Now you don't have to understand this on a just on a conceptual level. It's fine. When these notes combine, so if one instrument plays this C and then a voice plays this C and then a piano plays this C, all the extra notes are still there, but different instruments actually have each note is at a different volume to say what the piano would be and to what a clarinet would be, to what a voice would be. So that's what creates timbre. So when all the different notes and harmonics are played at different volume, then we get the characteristic of a clarinet, or we get the characteristic of, Alexis's voice, or, we get the characteristics of a piano. Okay. So if you actually go to a piano, and it does take a bit of training, but you play the lowest C, if you really, 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 really practice and train yourself, you can actually start to hear a 2 octave up C, or it might be 1 octave, and you might be able to hear a fifth in there as well. So that's when we look at priority of notes, because the one note already contains an octave and a fifth. I'm getting a bit advanced now. Then actually I can remove the fifth from the chord, and still within the root note there's going to be a fifth in there buried. Very secret though. It's a very hidden secret fifth. To the listener, they perceive it, but they're not conscious that, well, a lot of people are not conscious that they're perceiving fifths. But that's the world we live in, isn't it? Secret ninja fifths. All right, guys, I'm going to leave you with that. I've been wanting to touch on that for like 3 weeks. I've just been wanting to go.
Love secret ninja fifths.
Yeah, you can quote me on that. Today we learnt about secret ninja fifths.
I love that.
I hope you've enjoyed the week, and welcome to those that have managed to jump on today. It's really nice to see you here. We're gonna keep going next week, if that sounds good. Yeah.
Are you doing Monday, or because I know Easter Monday.
There's no public holidays in my life. To be honest, I only learnt of this 4-day thing a couple days ago. I was like, what? I will do Monday to Friday, and at the moment, we do beginners Monday to Friday, and then we do Monday, Wednesday, Friday as intermediate. But I'm going to start to maybe reshape things, like maybe do a 15-minute block of beginners and then maybe half an hour of slightly more advanced. Because the purpose of beginners predominantly is to make sure that everyone has a good understanding of how to read notation, how to sort of make basic chords, how to sort of read music. And so the intention of the beginners is actually to continue to welcome completely new and fresh people. So once you started doing these lessons, you'll find that some of the beginning stuff is you already know, but when we get into like chord building, that is slightly more advanced. So I will still talk about that, and I'll still repeat myself, but there will be moments where I don't repeat myself about like identifying note names, for example, because to me that's foundational and will be covered in like pure beginners. So I'm still going to work that out, but does anyone have any comments on that, or how does that sound to you guys? So it might be a 45-minute kind of thing if I can manage that.
Well,
that way I don't leave anyone behind.
If it's similar to what you've kind of done in the second half of the thing, where you're giving the foundations while explaining the intermediate stuff, like I can keep up at this point. So
that's what I'm going to aim for. I reckon if you keep coming to beginners, it'd be great. Even if you might know a few of the things, I think repetition's nice. And then the plan will be to continue to explain intermediate stuff. And I know that, due to group classes, everyone comes in with different, skill set. So some people will be really easy, and that's kind of just the way it is, to be honest. But I always, my fundamental like philosophy and ethos in all of this is to have a really strong, firm foundation. That you can build it and share it with other components of music. Even if, you're going, I already know this, skip ahead, skip ahead. And maybe eventually I, provided time works, open up like maybe a 2-day a week sort of slightly more advanced class where we do actually speed things along a little bit more and talk about chord shapes. And I'll sort of get that you've already got those foundational bits of knowledge. Anyway, I'm still working that out. Okay?
Cool.
Sound good?
Okay.
Just taping
Happy weekend.
It's Friday.
Yeah, happy Easter, everyone.
Easter.
Happy Easter. I don't have any
Eat
chocolate.
all the
Okay.
chocolate.
Yeah.
All right, friends. It's
Okay.
lunchtime.
Bye.
I should remove my finger from this tape. Bye, friends.
Bye.
What's happening? Love.